Hi there, and welcome to lesson number 14 in our series on descriptive geometry. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at vectors and resultant vectors in AutoCAD. Now, the idea of vectors and resultant vectors should be very familiar to you if you've taken any sort of physics course before. If you haven't, I would encourage you to skip over the video. There are better videos that you can go watch that talk about the basic fundamental idea of vectors and how you can add them together. I expect you to have a lot more familiarity with this. The problem that we're going to be doing here in AutoCAD is a three-dimensional vector problem, which is just a little bit more interesting than a two-dimensional problem. And the two-dimensional problems are just exactly carbon cut copies of what you've done when you've made force body diagrams in physics, or if you've done any sort of static analysis. So our goal here with this problem is we're going to try and find the views of the true length of a resultant vector between the force O to A, O to B, and O to C. And I want both of those views. And it says complete the parallel pipette. Well, a parallel pipette, for your reference, is a prism object that is not a right angle prism. So I want you to imagine that this point right here, oops, I should be in isometric, there we go. I want you to imagine this point right there is the beginning, where we're starting from here, and our goal is to get to here. I want you to notice that these two lines right here are parallel to each other, as are these lines. These lines are also parallel to each other, as are these lines. So no joke, this problem really just amounts to a bunch of copy and paste. Before we do that, I want to discuss the two basic ways that we can make arrows in AutoCAD. The first way that you can make an arrow in AutoCAD is if I were to draw just the stem of an arrow like so, and I made a little rectangle like that, and then I'm going to move that rectangle, that box, so it sits right on that edge right there, and I'm going to complete the head of that triangle right there. And then I'm going to type in solid, and it's going to ask me to specify the first point, and I'm just going to trace around that triangle, and the triangle just fills right in. I'll hit enter, and that's it. I've created an arrow. The dimensions of the head on the arrow are controlled by the dimensions of the rectangle, so you can get really precise if you want to. Typically the ratio is 1 to 3. So if you have 1 unit, if you have 1 unit, or 3 units this direction, the width back here should be 1. At least I think. I may be wrong about that. Then you can take this arrow and you can rotate it, do whatever you want. You can resize it. It's not, it's pretty easy. The other thing you can do, if you want to, you can cheat a little bit. You can type in leader, which is a note leader, and you can draw a really quick arrow that way. The trick is that we have to hit enter when we're done. We're going to hit options, and then we're going to hit none. And that's going to leave us with no text that the leader is referencing to. You'll see it's got a little tiny arrow head right there, and it's all selectable as a single object. The trick with drawing leaders is that you do not draw a leader like you draw a vector tail to tip. You draw a leader from tip to tail. So wherever you place your first cursor, that's where the arrowhead is going to be, is where you start, not where you finish. Since we got these vectors all nice and neat right here, we'll just go ahead and pick them up and copy them. So I'm going to copy and place that there. I'm going to place another one here, and I think that's all I can do for the moment. I'm going to move those over onto the construction layer, because they're not actual objects, right? These original things, these are forces. So the next thing we'll do is I'm going to copy out this, and this. And move that to the construction layer as well. Last thing is I'm going to take and copy dimension right there, and there, and I think I have to pick up one more of these. And there we have it. That's the parallel pipe head that's constructed out of these three force vectors. And all that's really left for us to do is we'll put a resultant vector in. And what I'll do is draw from here to here. And then I'm going to copy just the head of the arrow. And then I'm going to drop this right on top of the resultant line. Oh, it's a little bit off. You don't need to get too anal retentive about it. It's not that important if your lines don't match up perfectly. And then we'll just label that as the resultant force. Really irritating to me that the text comes in as single line text and not multi-line text every single time. Very lazy problem structuring from this textbook. Alright, there we go. There's a resultant force right there. And that's all there is to this. So what's happening when you construct this parallel pipe head is if you're starting and this is where you're finishing, the edges of this box are the vectors and the possible paths that you could take. And you can see that any path you take in any order, it's basically an illustration of the commutative nature of vector addition. It doesn't matter how you start here, you will finish down here. If you add this one, then this one, then this one, yeah, you go this way, this way, this way, yep. Here, 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 it doesn't matter how you add them, this is the point that you're going to end up at. So now let's complete the same parallel pipette over here. Copy and copy. Okay, we're looking at the resultant force, and that's coming from the beginning to the opposite corner of that. It lines almost exactly right up with that guy, so we will, can't really. Ballpark that guy right about there. Perfect, there you go. That's it, that's all there is to it. Build the parallel pipette, show the resultant force vector, make sure that everything is labeled as your teacher wants it to be labeled. Not difficult at all. So today's going to be a really short video. Let's not think too hard about it and move on to some more interesting stuff. So that's honest. That's going to finish lesson number 14.